has Ukraine's stance on the Transnistrian conflict evolved following the annexation of Crimea after 2014? And what implications does it have for regional stability?
Before 2014, Pridnістров'я was often viewed primarily from Ukrainian side as Moldova's internal problem, with regional security implications, but without critical significance for Ukraine. After Crimea and outbreak of the war in Donbass, this approach changed significantly. Ukraine began to perceive Transnistria as part of broader Russian military political infrastructure designed to project influence, block European integration, and preserve leverage of neighboring countries. Presence of Russian troops and munition depots in Transnistria ceased to be an abstract diplomatic issue and became a concrete security threat, especially for the Odessa region. As a result, Ukraine began to view Transnistria as a factor of regional instability directly linked to Moscow's revisionist plans. This also meant for more active Ukrainian engagement into border security issues and drawing the EU's attention to security risks stemming from the Russian presence in Transnistria. A separate line of effort was work for Ukrainian security services to counter Russian attempts to use residents of the separatist enclave for telephone sabotage operations against Ukraine. In addition, border areas adjustment to unrecognized Transnistria, for example, Podilsk district in Ukraine, had previously been within the range of broadcast signals from the occupied territory. Therefore, information-related challenges were also part of the national security threat and were addressed through the installation of telecommunications towers that block Russian TV and radio signals.
The second question is related also to Transnistrian conflict and to the settlement of this conflict. Russia has repeatedly insisted on the idea of federalizing the Republic of Moldova, and we have here as an example the Cossack plan from 2003. It was not signed by the Moldovan President Vladimir Voronin. But even during Igor Dodon's term, the concept of federalization was repeatedly proposed to the Republic of Moldova by Kremlin. In this regard, I would like to ask our Ukrainian colleagues, what lessons has Ukraine learned from the experience of the Republic of Moldova in resolving the Transnistrian conflicts? How you approached your Donbass crisis between 2014 and before the full-scale invasion?
Your second question concerns federalization and the lessons Ukraine drew from Moldova's experience. In this case, the lesson for Ukraine is rather concise. Federalization under conditions of external military pressure is an instrument of foreign policy influence. Moldova's experience with Transnistria shows that a return to federalization under Kremlin's pressure is not a way out of the conflict, but rather a mechanism for advancing Russia's interests. Analysts of the conflict demonstrates that Transnistria was never simply an internal separatist movement. It has always been shaped by Russia's strategic interests as part of the conflict, including military support and so-called peacekeeping missions that in practice commands the status quo. For Ukraine, this became an important lesson in its approach to peaceful settlement of the Donbass in 2014-2022. The Ukrainian authorities avoid formulas that would grant Russia permanent political influence through special statuses of federalization. Instead, Kiev relied on internationally recognized principles: sovereignty, territorial integrity, and demilitarization. The Minsk agreements were a comprehensive format for Ukraine, but without ending Russia's military presence and restoring control over the border, a constructive solution was impossible. Thus, Ukraine's key lessons is no political formula will work without security guarantees and the actual withdrawal of foreign troops, while attempts of federalization without guarantees of international oversight create risks for sovereignty. This is why from 2014 until the full-scale invasion, Ukraine relied on a mixed approach. military presence, diplomatic negotiations, sanctions, pressure on Russia, and support for international institutions. Kyiv also rejected any federalization model that would legitimize political autonomy of regions in a form of enabling Moscow to directly influence central government policy. Instead, Ukraine emphasized reintegration and the restoration of border control as key element of sustainable peace. At the same time, Kyiv carried out the decentralization reform, which increased revenues of local budgets managed by communities themselves.
What is Ukraine's current position on resolving the Transnistrian conflict, and which strategic options should it consider to influence the negotiations in a positive way?
Ukraine's current political stance regarding Transnistria is clearly aligned with support for Moldova's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and with condemnation of the use of Kremlin peacekeepers, of course, so-called peacekeepers, as a mechanism of influence. Ukraine also emphasizes the militarization and withdrawal of Russian forces from Transnistria as a key factor of any political solution, as well as full compliance with international law and OSCE standards. This is essential for achieving peace, since Transnistria is located near the Ukrainian border and has the potential to become a significant threat through escalation attempts and sabotage operations.